no one owes us loyalty. It's wonderful when you get it. We owe them opportunity. And so people will show up and they will stay for opportunity. And sometimes it takes work, like to help them get clear on what they want and what their dreams are.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Jay Papasan. He's a best-selling author who has served in multiple executive leadership positions during his 24-year at Keller Williams Realty International. Jay, I feel a little bit silly even reading from your bio because I feel like people are going to know who you are. As I said, I also like to let you tell the story. So
Sure.
I'll stop there. I'm 100% sure your background and story is going to sound better coming from your mouth. But first, thank you for being here. Thanks for being on the show. I'm very grateful.
Thanks for sharing your audience with us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, please tell us about yourself for those who don't know.
Sure. I think the through line, like through it all, is writing and books. So I've always been an aspiring writer, even in high school, got an English degree, worked as a translator briefly, but words, worked in independent bookstores, then worked in publishing in New York, HarperCollins, where I met my wife. And we quit our jobs, went backpacking for 5 months, and then landed in Texas, where I took a newsletter job at a little real estate company called Keller Williams. Back then, there were 27 employees, 6,700 agents. And I got to partner with the founder to build a publishing company and a training company. And we've written, I guess now 12 books. I think 6 of them bear both of our names. One's coming out. We'll just have mine. And we've now reached about 6.8 million readers. And so the theme's definitely real estate franchise company. It's now the largest in the world under one brand. So that's been a rocket ride to kind of see the scaling of a huge company that's mission-based. I've also become a real estate investor during that time. We wrote 3 books on investing. One that your listeners might know, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. It's a little long in the tooth, but some people call it a classic. We wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Agent for salespeople. And our biggest book by far is The One Thing. That came out in 2013 and is now sold about 3.8 million copies in 44 languages as of yesterday, which is an author's dream.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I have read at least 2 of them. And I mean, the books are great for sure. I think that people should. The One Thing is that's one of those books that in the entrepreneur world, it's like everybody's read it. Everybody sort of, you go on other podcasts and it's like, what book has had a lot of meaning to you? And it's like that book comes up a ton. And it's interesting though. I mean, and I've noticed this on the podcast throughout, different guests. If you, on the surface, being an author and being in real estate don't necessarily seem to go together. I think a lot of people as of late have been writing books because that's kind of the new, I think, business card, if you will. But how do your start was more in writing and then kind of shifted to real estate. How does that, like, what made you go that direction? And it didn't just go into real estate a little bit, like incredibly successful into real estate. So how does that, I don't know, how does that come together?
I think I was always attracted to being an entrepreneur on some level. And so I think of the real estate industry as there's not a lot of degrees required, right? Like I know people that are multimillionaires with high school diplomas and GEDs. And so it's very democratic in the sense that it's accessible. It's an opportunity that's accessible to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't have to have money to become an investor. If you can find deals, the money will follow. Like there's so many cool things.
Yeah.
I think the biggest transition happened around 2003 I had helped them write Dave Jinks, our late former partner, has passed away since, but we wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and our next project was The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And I had earned their trust enough. I was really just a writer before that, but I paired with this woman named Heather, and we interviewed 120 millionaires. We used our network to network to them. Who else do you know? They had to have $1 million in equity, not value, in the properties they owned. That was the criteria. And there was a little bit of trust involved, but most of them were willing to share financials and spreadsheets, and they all came through trusted recommendations. And so I interviewed 120 of them, transcribed them, looked for patterns, and that was transformative. My father was a CEO. He had been a great leader. He had also worked in a company for 25 years. So definitely looked up to him and was following his lead. But I thought wealth, which I didn't really know how to define back then, you would get rich by being a great executive, move your way up the ladder, earn more money, sock it away in your 401k. So I had some principles, no credit card debt. Like I got a decent financial education, but talking to all these millionaires was transformative. Like they had a completely different viewpoint on the world. And I also read over that 18-month period, probably 50 classic investing books. So I was driving all the research for this book and trying to come up with patterns. And I remember going home to my wife and I was like, explaining everything to her. And I was like, do you want to become millionaires? Do you want to try to do this thing? And she said, sure. And we built a 10-year plan that we would acquire 7 properties in 10 years. Okay. Woefully naive plan. But we backed it down and we agreed that if we could save $1,500 a month, we could once a year, we thought back then, remember, this is the early 2000s, we could put a down payment on a house. And back then on an investment property, you could put like as little as 5% down, and then you got a second mortgage to carry the rest. Like you could do a lot more creative financing before the Great Recession. Right. We got investors to bring their money. We partnered, and we ended up becoming net worth millionaires in just under 7 years. So that was transformative. My wife went home. She was a marketing and PR professional. We had 2 kids, 16 months apart. So she took about 4.5 years, 5 years out of the workforce. And when she was coming back, I remember telling her, it's like, hey, I've written all these real estate books. I've got a license, but I don't sell real estate. You're really good at managing our portfolio. Like she had managed a couple flips for us, you name it. I was like, I think you'd be really good. So in 2009, great timing, if you remember the Great Recession, she got her license. She set a goal of making $15,000 her first year and made $85,000. And which is really remarkable for a first-year agent working very part-time. She had hard rules. She was going to drop the kids off. She was going to pick the kids up. We paid for a babysitter on Tuesdays and Thursdays so that she could go on listing appointments. But she really managed her time hard because her first job at that time, she thought was still, I'm going to be a mom first, a realtor second, investor third. And she's now sold, I think, 2,300 homes and built one of the largest teams in the world. So like, I'm lucky to be married to an entrepreneur. We both kind of got sucked into real estate because of this job. But I remember saying like, why would we do anything else? We have such an information advantage. We work with a self-made billionaire. We work with all of these people who built tremendous wealth through real estate. And I can just knock on their door. When it was really small, I could just knock on the door and say, Mark Willis, Mo Anderson, Gary Keller, those are all executive leaders in the company. I'd be like, we're thinking about buying this investment property. Here's the pro forma. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a no-brainer at the time. It took some courage and some savings and discipline, but we built our portfolio, and you know how it goes. Like that real estate wealth compounded, not a lot of cash flow. We're in Texas, bad property taxes, but great appreciation. And then we started looking up, and it's like, we won't hit our cash flow goals unless we have businesses. We started hers, and then we started looking to start others. So now we have about 6 businesses. I still have my day job here, though it frankly is not, I'm a full-time employee, but I also am running our training company around the One Thing. And that's where I spend a lot of my time. It's very compatible with our mission here, so it works for everybody. But like, it just feels like it all happened organically unless you step way back and kind of put the pieces together. So that's a lot I just threw at you. I have no idea which string you want to pull on that, but it's kind of the cliff notes.
Are you planning a remodel or construction project? Overwhelmed by the process? Over budget? Extended timelines? Strained relationships? We are all too familiar. At Lark Construction Services, we help homeowners and business owners take control of their construction journey, from reviewing bids and contracts to catching red flags before they become costly mistakes. Our Clarity Audit is a one-on-one expert review of your plans, estimates, or current progress, giving you the peace of mind and a defined action plan to move forward with confidence. Don't let confusion lead to costly errors. Visit larkconstruction.com and schedule your free call today. Lark Construction Services, saving you time, money, and stress.
Yeah, no, that's a great summary, and I think there's some of the real points that you made there that I think are so, it's very easy to look at someone in your position and say, oh, it just kind of fell in your lap, or what, it's when you've been so successful, I think people don't realize a lot of times where the start is and what you did to kind of get there. And I think I feel like to me, that's the inspiration. It's like, it's really cool that you're a best-selling author and Keller Williams is such a huge company. Like, all of that's amazing. And I can be happy for people. But I think what helps people is the story you just told, the story of, this is what we did in the beginning. And we set these goals and, set goals that felt realistic and then beat them,
just to be clear, like, I wasn't an executive back then. Our combined household income was under $100,000 for the first 5 years of the journey.
Yeah.
So we were having to be very creative. We both had side hustles. I edited books on the side, on the weekends. We did the work. And we also, I think we lived on about 50 to 60% of our income. We made it a game, like how little money we could spend so that we could save that money. And by the way, a goal of $1,500 a month, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
But through, like, if I got a $10,000 contract to edit a soccer book, I used to do soccer books when I was in publishing, then, it might take 6 months to earn it, but boom, like, we're like, more than 50% of goal. So like, we saved everything we could, and then we took all of the extra income and threw it in. Mm-hmm. And you talk to enough people, if they didn't come from a very privileged, we were privileged in some sense, I get it, but we were very, not blue collar, but we were very low on the totem pole, white collar people, one income family, no family in town. So like, we had to bootstrap it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of that to me is that's the dream in a way, is, you have to put that work in the beginning. And then what's great is then you can see what happens if you do that, right? Then you can see how it actually can really snowball, sort of exponentially over time if you put that early work in. And I'm going to butcher this quote, but effectively, you overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 10 or whatever something to that effect.
I think it comes from a technologist, but yes, that is absolute truth in the world. I agree with that.
Yeah. I do it all the time. My wife, she gives me a hard time about it. She says, you always think projects are going to take less time than they do. And I'm like, that's true, because I want to set the bar somewhere where it pushes me. But then at the same time, when you look at those cumulative little projects over time, it's actually, kind of adds up to something really big if you look at it in the span of 5, 10, 20 years. Like, there's a whole lot that can happen in that time based on the early smaller work. And that's very inspirational to me.
I remember like 8 years into it, we track our net worth every month. That's like the core habit, is every month we sit down, we look at all of our accounts, we add up everything we own, subtract everything we owe, just the classic net worth habit. And I remember it was a little bit after it took us 7 years or so to get to $1 million, and then 3 to get to like 3 million, like there was this elbow of the curve.
Yep.
And she's like, what happened? What did we buy that year? And I was like, we didn't. It actually is what we did 5 years before, exactly what you're talking about. And I showed her, I was like, we bought all these properties in a rapid succession, and cumulatively and on top of each other, they started compounding. And it really does take 5 to 7 years to kind of see even a glimmer of that. So there's an element of faith that this is going to work out. And a lot of people quit and bail way before that happens.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you can tough out that first 5-7 years, that's when you're going to have that, sort of upward hockey stick effect where it's like everything that you did to set that foundation is suddenly going to, sort of take off. And it's like you get, we talk about in the real estate world, you talk about sort of the investments tend to double every 5 to 7 years. And so for the first 5 to 7 years, you don't have anything. You have what you started with, basically. But then that doubling effect, that compounding effect, it's like it just grows so fast. And so if you're consistently investing, whether it's the work and the time or the capital into investments that are going to grow over time, it's all the same. It's like the most powerful weapon we have is that time and letting it, kind of grow throughout.
A great tool I was taught, and I learned this from Charlie Munger, actually. I was reading his mental lattice work of models. It was like a PDF that was circulating in the mid 2000s, maybe 2008 or 9. I started following Berkshire Hathaway. And the rule of 72, if you know it, if you want to know how fast your money will double, so if your money is growing, your investment is growing at 7.2%, you divide that into 72, 10, and that tells you it'll double every 10 years. And so, like, I just did the math in my head by that. I was like, well, 5 years would mean you're growing at about 14%. And for a single family rental property, right, because you bought it on leverage, you put 25% down, but the 100% value is appreciating. You've got the effects of compounding. If you're using your cash flow to pay down the debt, your renters are paying down the debt first and foremost, right? It gets way above the quote 4% appreciation rate of most real estate because you have all of these other factors. We don't count tax savings into it, even though they are significant if you're a real estate professional. But we looked up and we're like, wow, some of these rental properties, we're getting like 14 to 18% annual rate of return over the first 10 years. So they can double really fast. And you acquire, like, I think we have 16 doors now. Not a lot, but we own a lot of single family homes in Central Texas. And the population here is grown by 150% in the last 20 something years. So a lot of pressure on that real estate, which has helped the values go up. So it's just, your brain can't think this way. Like, it's so hard to understand compounding, but like when you see it, it's a miracle.
Yeah. I mean, that's where books come in. That's where podcasts come in. That's where, like, it's out there. I think we're no longer in a time where people could say, oh, I don't have access to the information, right? It's like they can read your books, they can listen to your podcast, they can do, there's so many different things where you can find these things out. And so you don't necessarily even have to do the math yourself. Like, it's out there. I created a spreadsheet. Basically, I wanted to. I like the idea of like gamifying things, like you said. How much can we live on? I thought about it. I was like, could my kids be billionaires? I was like, I thought I can't be a billionaire, but like, if you use this compounding rule, and my kids are young, and so they have a lot of doubling cycles before they're 60 or 70. And I was like, what do I have to set up for that to be a possibility for them? And it's like, I don't have any interest in handing them $1 billion, but it was more like, is this even a possibility if I think in an even longer time frame than my life? I'm like, what does that mean for them? What does that mean for their kids? And then you have to just essentially educate.
Yeah.
Like, don't screw this up. look at what I look at what I started. Don't screw this up, and kind of use time to your advantage. And I think that's the thing is just the resources are there to figure this stuff out, and it's just putting in the work and believing that it works. And like full disclosure to people, these last 3 years in the real estate market, if you haven't heard, haven't been great. And so
horrible. Last year was the worst real estate sales year since 1995.
Yeah. And so this doubling cycle probably isn't going to be 5 years. It's probably going to be 10 years. But the doubling cycle before it was like 3. So it's just, again, if you're looking on the overall time horizon of a life, just get started early. Like and get started where you are right now, and and use that time to your advantage. So I think it's an important concept that people just should really consider. I want to talk about scaling a company. It's fascinating to me to see, you talked about sort of bootstrapping and, why don't you get your real estate license? And I hope I do 15,000 in sales. And then, by the way, now the largest real estate franchise in the country, like the world, maybe. How does that, I'm sure this is a longer than time we have, but how does that progression happen? Like what's, because I'm sure some of it is just, there's always some level of, the market helped, but also there's got to be some very intentional.
There's a few things, I think. I'll try to make them more general than specific to just real estate sales companies. But I think we always tell people, like, clearly identify your one thing. And so you look under the hood, and most businesses will generate a majority of their income from one category of service or product, right? Mm-hmm. And it's usually where they break through.
Yep.
So they've got this thing that they do better than anyone else, which is how they got their initial success. And are we able to and willing to double down and trust that we can continue to build around it and innovate around that to keep it relevant for a long period of time? So, Gary tells this story early in his career, like he always ended up in front of a classroom. So like being a teacher is kind of one of his core roles, teacher coach. He loves it. He'll do it for free. He did it for free. Every time he had a growth strategy, he tried to make it happen through a classroom, basically. Mm-hmm. And like he even knew at one point, if he had 100 people in the audience, like 2 people would come out of it and join his company. So if he wanted to have, 5 people join him that month, it's just a math problem now.
Yeah.
So that was early. That's like, we're talking about the 80s that he's figuring this out. But when I joined the company in 2000, we were kind of known as the profit share company. That was incidentally one of the innovations that happened as he was building his company. But at the core, our partner, Dave Jenks, would say, people are attracted to the profit share. They actually find us and stay because of the education. And so it was always around this idea that we were going to teach people the practical things they needed to know to succeed. So it's the old, give a man a fish, teach a man to fish, right? And we were in the latter category, and we caught a wave. So there's luck sometimes. We caught a moment in time when salespeople wanted to be seen as business people. And it was just a wave of entrepreneurship that we've seen before the internet entrepreneurship and now the creator movement. Like it's all the same thing. We just saw it in ours, and we became the thought leader for that movement. And we wrote a book about it. And that helped establish our thought leadership. So figure out what you do, continue to do new things to make yourself relevant while doing it. Like we became, for I think 5 straight years, the #1 training company in the world, according to Training Magazine. And they eventually moved us to, quote, the Hall of Fame which is what they do after you win it enough times so that other people can stand on stage, and then they get your free labor. To stay in the Hall of Fame, you have to judge. So my whole team would be there judging other companies for like the next 5 years. But we just continue to push. And that's still, a lot of people will say we have the best training in the industry. And it's because we put a lot of energy and focus into it. And so there's one element, like the product or service that you really do well, you can expand it, but it always happens after you really nail it, right? You break through based on this thing that you do really well. And then we went into coaching and we've done other things, but that's after. And that takes longer than people think. I also remember sitting with Gary, and the business was growing. It was huge. You know, we were making millions and millions of dollars a year. He's the majority owner by far. And I remember him saying like that he took $1 million out of the business for the first time, a company he started in 1983, and now we're in the early 2000s. And it just boggled the mind. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, every time I had $1, I asked how I could reinvest it for growth. Every time. And he goes, the best investments I've ever made were in people who were bigger than the positions I was hiring them for. And so he kept looking up, and he invested in this person to come in and be a leader in his company. And they're way more expensive than you would think, but they're not going to show up unless there's an opportunity for them. And he just said, I just kept laying the foundation and growing it through great people, because great people will create great things. Like, it's that simple formula. It's not super complicated. It's just really hard to do. Mm-hmm. And he kept investing and reinvesting until the company was growing so fast and generating so much, he just couldn't do it anymore. And then he went through like a little crisis. He bought a ranch. He started buying expensive cars. And then he's like, he sold them all at a loss. He's like, I'm not that guy. He bought a Ford Escape hybrid and put a really killer stereo in it. He's like, he didn't want to role model that for his kid.
Yeah.
But so like, I think it's figure out your one thing, stick to it longer than anybody else. You have to innovate. Like every 7 years, you're going to get disrupted. It's like a cycle, or you have to disrupt yourself. He's always asking, what's the company that will put us out of business? And I've learned to ask it as well. So why don't we just be that first? Go ahead and become that company and invest in people. And there's like a million other things I could say, but like that's a pretty good 20% core around at least my experience in delivering a service company.
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal explanation. The investing in people piece, I think I feel like it's something that gets missed. It's a huge opportunity and gets missed so often in business, and you can. And I'll use the example from my veterinary world. Like, I can hire a technician for 30% more, maybe say even 50% more than market rate, but they'll be able to do the work of 2 technicians, and I won't even have to worry about it. Like I won't have, they'll do it without me having to tell them. I won't be worried about results. And I think, I see this where people get in this thing where they're like, I have to, I don't want to spend money on X. And it's like, it's always going to be beneficial to invest in that talent, to invest in those people.
It doesn't have to be everybody, by the way. It's not like, just so if somebody's listening, is like, we're not saying overpay for every position in your company, but like there's probably, and even the biggest companies, 5, maybe 10 really key people, and you've got to invest in them and teach them to invest in their people. And it's not, everybody doesn't matter equally. They all have the same rights and the same freedoms. We honor them, all of that. But there are key people. And when you're a growing organization, the mistake almost always happens with the first hire. They're hiring from pain. They need an administrative person in their life, and they go to the cheapest possible solution. And I'm not against this. We have VAs in our business, but a lot of people right now, their knee-jerk is, I need a VA. Mm-hmm. And that is a person that requires generally more management They're not going to be as resourceful or able, but it's a very small investment. So people look at the value there. But like we did some back of the math studies on people. People would hire an in-person administrator, like an EA, and for about $10,000 more a year, you got twice the time back.
Yeah.
So you could hire at the bottom of the market. Oh, in this market, that position pays 65, 75,000. Today it's more in Austin for sure. But back then we were looking at the math, but like if you pay 75,000, you're going to get someone with tremendous experience. They're going to feel completely valued, and they're going to give you droves of your time back to do more dollar productive work. So when you only have one employee, they are one of those people. Right. And otherwise you learn the hard lesson and people go, oh, I'm not meant to employ people. I can have contractors. But it's almost always because they tried to start with the wrong raw materials because they were trying to save money versus make a great investment in their business.
Yeah, that's perfectly said.
That's a soapbox for me, by the way. We could talk for 3 hours just about hiring a great EA.
Yeah, it's well that you mentioned the VAs, and so my EA manages the VAs.
Yes.
So like I have that person. I have the person who's the person that's worth spending the money on, and then she in turn manages our VAs to do some of the lower dollar type of activities, and it's that the benefit to me on that of not having to manage the overseas VAs is so worth it. It's like,
well, it's a win-win,
yeah.
Right? Like you've invested in giving them leverage, right?
Yep.
You're making it's better than a raise. For $1,500 a month, you're getting their time and attention back. So they're not drowning in coordinating emails or editing videos or whatever.
Yeah.
And they also get to experience leadership, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great gateway drug to leadership for sure. We got an EA for my chief of staff, Carly. She now has a part-time EA that's reporting to her to help me part-time. We'll see where that goes. But then our director of ops also has an EA. So it's like, I think getting a fractional EA or a VA for your young leaders to give them their time back is a great investment to make. It also allows you to coach them on how to manage and lead people. And you might have a future, instead of an EA, you might have a future COO if you handle it right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly how I've thought about it. It's like, if she wants to, she could ultimately be the COO. Like it's just seeing and it's like there's the value of that person. I mean, there's things that I'm like, I don't know how to do this because she just handles it. I'm like, see, hopefully she doesn't leave or something go wrong in one of those things that I don't know how to do. But it's like, there's the value.
The other gift of the VA is they have to document what they do. So the VAs can help them.
Yep.
So early on, we used to talk about creating a systems manual for our businesses. And we would teach young entrepreneurs, like, you're not building it, but your ops director is. And you don't have to build it every month, but like every month, pick a new category and say, let's update our process for this. Let's update our process for this. So you're just always chunking away. So like at this point, Carly is my 8th. But like when she took the job, the EA before her said, this is our Jay Papasan manual. These are his doctors. He does date nights on Wednesday night. Like this is preferences, where he wants to sit on an airplane. Like when he has to make a quick decision around a meal, like these are all safe choices. Salad with grilled chicken, right? There's like, we don't have to relearn the wheel, and I don't have to completely train them.
Yeah.
I just have to, like, you can build a system that is self-sustaining. Because if you have a really good one, you'll look up in 5 years, and I asked the question, I even went to Carly. I just said, our first 5 years have been amazing. How do I earn the right to be in business with you for the next 5? And that's about what opportunities does she need for this to continue being a fulfilling job? Where does she want to grow? And here's the thing. You said if she wants to, she can. the want is one of those words. So like, it's not just want it, but they have to want it enough to do the things to earn that job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Am I willing to grow? Am I willing to learn about financials or marketing if I'm wanting to grow into these other areas of the business? And chief of staff, like, which is the end point for a lot of people there, they have to know how to lead people and projects. Yeah. So like, if they can learn those skills, absolutely. That door is not locked. And I'm happy for them to open it whenever they're ready to go.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that, the reframing of that too. And I think that, well, one, you just gave me a whole bunch of ideas for things that I could be having someone else do that I hadn't even thought of. So just that quick list, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Like where I like to sit on the plane. I'm like, hold on a minute, I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, I think just creating that relationship and having it be something, I like that you sort of talked about earning it from both sides. Like they're earning the advancement within the company and larger responsibilities, but also you're asking the question, how do I earn the right to have you stay, right? Like, how do I make this a place that you want to continue to be?
I'm a loyal guy. Just who I am. I tend to err on the side of loyalty. And I think a lot of people in that position lean towards loyalty too. But I remember we were coaching one of the top agents in our system. And this individual, I won't even, because some of my friends will know who I'm talking about, but they were just really mad that someone very high profile had defected from the organization very publicly. Mm-hmm. And she talked about like whatever happened to loyalty. And the lesson I remember from that exchange, which is just a great mastermind exchange, my lesson is no one owes us loyalty. It's wonderful when you get it. We owe them opportunity.
Yeah.
And so people will show up and they will stay for opportunity. And sometimes it takes work, like to help them get clear on what they want and what their dreams are and help them build a vision for their lives. So they don't just have that midlife crisis of angst because they don't know, but they know that where they are isn't it. Yeah. But opportunity is the key to those long relationships. And that may not even be 100% true, but it's a great kind of rule to have as an employer that if I want to keep my best people, then I have to continue to build a world or allow them to build a world big enough for their dreams to be met.
Yeah. I'll be listening back to this for myself. This is great stuff. I think that
all easy to say, hard to do. I'll just I fail all the time, but like I'm saying this as much to coach myself as anybody else listening, but it's a good principle to try to build a business around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people and culture, I mean, that's everything. I think that's the way that you build a large business. That's the way that you build it. And I don't mean necessarily large as in more people or more money. I mean, large as in large impact, large success, that kind of thing.
That's the magic word for me, impact.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just about, kind of how to give back to the world. So I think it's just phenomenal advice. What does the future look like for you? What do you have in your vision over the next few years?
One of my big 5-year goals just happened. So like I have been co-authoring a lot of books, right? I have been a co-founder in many things, but like 2.5 years ago, I formally stepped into the CEO of our training company. And so I've had to lean into my staff because I'm not always available every single hour of every day, but it's very possible in this world with technology and communication to build something and build it big. So I'm super happy about, I never thought of myself actually as a CEO. I thought of myself as an entrepreneur and like with entrepreneurial tendencies. And my wife is she is perfect CEO candidate, like everything about her, communication, behavioral style. So she's running she has been running 3 businesses. I've been co-running or founding. I kind of sit like as the chairman of the board, but now I'm actually running one. I also authored the first book with just my name on it. And so that'll come out this fall, The Rookie Real Estate Agent. And it's really about earning 6 figures as fast as you can in a real estate sales role. And I've got another couple in the pipeline. So I've got some goals. Like, I think my biggest impact is always going to be through content. So I lean into my job as a newsletter writer. I write a weekly called The 20%er that comes out on Fridays. I've been doing it for, 158 weeks this week. I've got the podcast. We're now in 540 something episodes. It's up there. It's been going for a while, and I'm at the helm, and every week I have to create a piece of content for that. And then I'm always working on a book or a course. And so, like, that's where it's always hard. It's work, but I get great fulfillment, and especially when it's a book, because I've now been a part of 3 million copy bestsellers, 1 as an editor, 2 as an author, co-author. And I just know the impact you can have over time and around the world when you create something that's somewhat timeless that helps people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's where I think about my framing, right? That's where I'm trying to go into the places where I have the highest long-term impact.
Yeah. Now, this is probably a piggyback question on some of that, but the name of the show is Know Your Why, and so I ask every guest, what is your why? What's I think I can get a sense of some of what's important to you, but you've had so much success already. What keeps moving the needle?
Well, I think a lot of people don't know, right? There is a thing that's pushing them, but they can't articulate it. That was true for me, even in my 40s. There's a great book called The Happiness Hypothesis, and I believe the author's name is Jonathan Haidt, and he just studied principles from the great religions around the world. But there was a little anecdote in there called The Rider and the Elephant, and it's since shown up in a whole bunch of other books. And I've probably quoted him a bajillion times, but he talks about if you can imagine watching a nature show, and there's like a small kid riding an elephant through the jungle. And he asked the question, is there anything that child can do to make the elephant go where the elephant does not want to go? And now your logic brain kicks on. Like, what does an elephant weigh? Like 4 tons or something crazy? It's huge.
Yeah.
And you've got some like 60-pound kid riding on its back. There is nothing the kid can do to make that elephant go where it doesn't want to go. And he was summing up all this philosophy with this anecdote. And I was like, okay, where's he going with this? And he just said, the rider is our head. The rider always thinks he's in control, but guess who's in control? The heart, and that's the elephant. And I remember I read that, and the core of the one thing, like the foundation of everything is knowing your purpose, another way of saying your why. Yeah. I remember thinking, I'm such a fraud. I'm writing this book, and like I can't articulate it. And I was like, oh, wait, if the elephant's always been in charge, I have been going somewhere. I just haven't figured out how to articulate it yet. And so I started looking back at the times I had the most regret, at the decisions that really mattered, and tried to find a theme. And so my why, my purpose statement, is fairly corny, and it's very, very, very personal. But I've even got 2 tattoos to remind me. Like, it says to be the best husband and father I can be. Because the times where I have violated that are the times that I've experienced the most pain and regret. I'm not saying I've done bad things, but I remember once I was working on a book that I did not want to work on. And my wife looked at me and she said, Jay, you tell your family that you're an author, a professional author, and it sounds a whole lot like you're about to mail it in. And it was just a gut punch. And I was like, oh. And so, like, it still was a book project I didn't want to do, but I doubled down. I worked as hard as I could, and we won like 3 book awards. I was mad because I knew the book wouldn't sell. There wasn't an audience for it. And it was true. It's been the least selling of any of our books.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but I did my work because I realized more than anything, I wanted to continue to earn the respect of my family. So that, intensely personal, but when I need to dig deep, that's usually where I will go. Like, will this build respect with my family, or will it diminish it? Because I think respect is the foundation of a long-term relationship. We don't have to always agree, but we have to respect each other on a really fundamental level. So that's just me. That's my personal mantra. That's it. But the compass I use, I'll show you on camera, impact, family, and abundance. So it's a rubric we use in our One Thing business. We train people, identify your top 3 core values. And we tell people if it's a big life decision, I score it 1 to 10 on each.
Okay.
Should I write this book on a scale of 1 to 10? Can I make an impact? On a scale of 1 to 10, will this bring me closer to my family or take me away from them? And then abundance, it used to be wealth, because I get really passionate about teaching wealth building, and investing has transformed our lives. But abundance became the word because it's very important for me that we're not just becoming rich for us. It's that we're also creating opportunity for those around us. And so I kind of rate different initiatives and what I'm going to give my time. And that's been a really good compass for me. And it lines up, obviously, with that kind of why statement that I shared earlier. So I just threw, again, a lot at you. This is a core principle that I have been teaching for now 12 years. So I've had to do a lot of work so I can be authentic around it.
Yeah. Great. I mean, just it. I think you've nailed the authenticity. It sounds. I mean, it really resonates with me. Family's huge for me. I also have tattoos for my kids, and I've said I guess I owe my wife one. So that's next on the list. But
I had to tell my kids. They said, "Why do you say husband and then father?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was kind of a conscious decision over time. And I remember talking to my wife, and I was like, we value our friendship so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as much as we love the kids, if the building's burning when they were small, we were going for the kids first.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Because that was part of our job as a parent.
Right.
But we also wanted to prioritize role modeling what we hope if they end up becoming married someday, whatever that looks like for them, a life partner, like, can we role model for them what that can look like over time? And I hope we never get divorced. We've been married for over 25 years, but we're still working at it. And that kind of reminds us. And I've even told Gus, it's like, I'm sorry, your mom comes first. She's my best friend, and I knew her before you existed. But that doesn't mean love's not a pie. It's not like if I give a slice to this person, there's less for the next.
Yeah. So
I can love you both with all of my heart. But I am going to put that relationship first because it also impacts you.
Yeah. No, it's a great
People are
point.
probably arguing with me. No, that's wrong. Kid first. I don't care. This is just what works for me. What works for you works for you.
Yeah. Well, kids are. It's an easy concept to forget because kids, especially when they're young, they need to be taken care of, and your partner doesn't. Like your partner survived without you and can survive without you. But it in terms of longevity and like you said, modeling for those kids, like it really is such an important piece to put that first and make sure that it, at the very least, put it up, alongside, don't let the marriage kind of get diminished by the kids in it. And I think it's another one of those things that's like simple but not easy, that we theme that has gone
everything
through
important in life can be really simple but not easy.
Right.
It
Exactly.
sucks. I'm like, come on, give me an easy one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jay, this has been amazing. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect?
Well, I hope that they would make their way over to The One Thing, maybe listen to me on the podcast. That's free. And, I talk about our themes. We try to fight busyness and chaos for leaders and people leading themselves and others. And it's hard to do. It's another of those simple in concept, but not at all easy in action kind of things. But we have all kinds, we even have our core values thing for free on our website. If they go to theonething.com, they can go to our resources and I want to do that. And I think it's a good gateway drug to figuring out your why. When people try to do a purpose or a mission statement, they often come off as kind of phony in the beginning because you really have to date it and live with it for a while. Yeah. And so even with core values, you can do that in about 20 or 30 minutes. I just say date them for a while. Don't go get tattoos with them. Like mine have changed in the last 10 years. The order has changed and the verbiage has changed. Yeah. But it can be a really quick way to help make better decisions in your life. And the other weird thing, Jay Papasan, spelled with an S, not a Z. As far as I know, there's 8 billion people on Earth, and I'm the only Jay Papasan that Google knows about. So I can't really hide if people want to find me.
We have that in common. I have not found a single person. There's really not even if you're not related to me, there's not another Balara. So it's a uncommon name. So
we share that then. I have a friend named Monroe Rayburn, and he's like, I found one in Ireland a century ago, but that's it. And I was like, yep. Yeah. Got those good Google names. That's good for now.
Exactly. Jay, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really do. I appreciate everything that you shared. These are concepts that really resonate with me, and I've learned a lot. I think the listeners are going to get a lot. So thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I love what you're doing. If you're helping people figure out their why, what a great gift to the world.
Thank you so much. And folks listening, make sure you connect with Jay. Please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get more great guests. And as always, thank you for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?